Hey everybody, this is the producer Zach. I just wanted to say that this video is for entertainment purposes only. If you know someone who has a gambling problem, you can have them call the National Gambling Helpline Network at 1-800-522-4700.
Hey, welcome to a special edition of the Mock 2023 Mock Selection Committee. As we said, we'd be bringing you different types of things during the tournament, and this is step number one. Joined today by Graham Dorn, member of our committee. Hey, Graham, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Tim. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And so today, Graham and I are going to throw a little gambling angle at this since we enjoy that so much. And we're going to give you some winners. We're going to go down through the slate Saturday and through the slate Sunday and go through the games and, see which ones we like the most. I got to say, first of all, typically the Saturday Sunday games are always difficult for me because I always feel like the lines are a little bit finer. You're getting, more power matchups, and it's really hard for me since too, they're on a neutral floor. You don't have that home court aspect of it. I always find these games to be the most difficult. How about you?
Yeah, I think they are more difficult because you do get these, as you mentioned, a lot of times these power conference teams end up in these 10 seeds, 9 seeds, 8 seeds, and they've got the talent to run with the ones and twos, and I think that makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out what's going to happen.
Crazy tournament. We think it's been a wild tournament. When you step back and look, you had a 14 winning, you had a 13 winning, a 15 winning, and a 16 winning. So that's crazy, right? But that was it. I mean, we had probably the best core of 12s, and none of them won. Drake came close, Charleston came close, but none of them won, which really surprised me. I thought there was depth in the 13s and 14s. I thought we'd see few more upsets, because if you looked at the lines the first day, you didn't see that many wide point spreads. I mean, like, for instance, Marquette and Vermont was a 10-point game. It was like crazy. But and then you even go further than that. I think we had one. We didn't have a 12. We had 111 win, and that was the play-in game. We had 110 win, and I think we split the 8s and 9s, which is a coin toss anyway. So really very chalky.
I will say I think the part that surprised me the most is up there in that Midwest region with Miami, Drake, and Indiana, Kent State. I figured at least one, if not both of those, were going to go to the underdog. For the power conference teams to end up winning both of those really did surprise me.
Yeah, I told everybody, I said, oh, this is a bad matchup for Drake. Boy, I looked stupid for the first 38 and a half minutes. And then finally in the end, Drake pulled it out and covered the point spread. So I guess the odds makers had it right. And I know a lot of people aren't Kent State. I was really on Indiana there. And you could tell last night that arena had a lot of Hoosier fans in it. So that should be something to look forward to as we go ahead. So let's get right at it. We'll just kick off. We'll just kind of go down through the games here. Let's start off with the Furman San Diego State game. San Diego State is 5.5. The under/over is 137. Graham, you can kick it off. You got anything jumps out at you at this game?
Yeah, I like San Diego State. I think the Aztecs are just so sound. Fundamentally, I think they're really going to rebound well. They're going to make this game a pain for Furman to play in. I think in some ways the matchup's somewhat reminiscent of the Virginia game. But Furman, they made a very late comeback in that game. They were down throughout most of that. I think they're playing a similar team, but one that's better at the fundamentals than Virginia was. I think this is a bad matchup for Furman. I think San Diego State's going to go ahead and just slowly choke the game away. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun. I think San Diego State's the call here.
I don't have an opinion on this one. If you had to put a gun to my head, I might go Furman, but I totally see your point on that. Totally. It's uncharted waters for Mountain West teams that haven't done very well in the tournament. So, and be favored to get into the Sweet 16. I mean, that's crazy. I have a strong opinion. I like the under here. San Diego State typically, now they've scored a few more points this year. They've been more efficient offensively. But like you said, I think they're going to grind Furman down. They're going to limit, their scoring opportunities. I just thought this number was kind of high for a San Diego State game. I mean, you look at most of their Mountain West games are in the low 130s. So I'm going to take the under here.
I agree with you there.
Let's move on to Duke and Tennessee. I can't believe this point spread. I am all over Duke. Probably my biggest play of the day today.
I don't get it either. I think this is a Duke game that I feel very.
It's a trap game with that point spread.
It really it feels like it because Duke is just playing so well. Tennessee is not just that simple. You have a really hot team against a team that's really not performing well recently. Obviously, the Ziegler injury is really hurting them. But even before that, Tennessee has shown some real signs of slowing down over the past couple months in SEC play. I just think this one is Duke all over Tennessee.
Totally agree. And we'll check that one off. We'll come back to our strongest plays later, but that's certainly going to be one of mine. Moving on, we've got Arkansas, Kansas. Kansas 3.5-point favorite at 143. As you can see the logo in the background, you wonder where Graham's going to go here.
I think this is one of the toughest calls of the entire weekend. I think matchup-wise, this is a very bad matchup for Kansas. Arkansas is so long, so athletic, very talented team that has underperformed throughout this season. I think Arkansas has the ability to stop Kansas from scoring at the rim. I think they could make it a real problem for DeJuan Harris trying to run point. If he can't distribute, if he can't get points, Kansas always struggles if DeJuan Harris struggles. That's their MO. If DeJuan Harris is on offensively, they're going to do well. If he's not, they're going to do poorly. I think this one could go either way. I think at 3, I think the call's Kansas just because it just takes 1 or 2 spurts from the Jayhawks to get away there. And Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick really love a certain spot on the floor to shoot 3-pointers, and that just so happens to be a spot that Arkansas struggles to guard. So Arkansas is actually pretty good at guarding the 3-pointer, but there's a corner, an area in between the corner and the top of the key that they really struggle at, and that is the favorite spot of Grady Dick and Jalen Wilson. The Jayhawks go to that spot all the time. So I eventually think you're going to see enough 3-pointers raining down from that spot that the Jayhawks do end up coming out on top.
Yeah, I like the Jayhawks here. I like a smaller play on the over today. I think this could get to be a lot of 3-shot in this game, which obviously would jack up the total. I have to say, I'm going to make this comment now, a lot of unders in this tournament. And, we've seen the ball stick on the side of the backboard. We've seen it land on the top of the rim. Nick Ball, who does commentary for Fox, said that the NCAA balls are stickier. The treads are a little bit stickier, and he goes, that's why you're seeing the ball stick. And I think that combination with the tight rims, I mean, we've seen, I can't tell you how many layups that normally would drop in, spin out, free throws the same way. And it's just added to the unders. So it's dangerous taking it over here, trust me. But I'm going to go with it there. Princeton, Missouri 6.5 at 148. I don't really have a strong play on this one at all. I would lean Missouri, but boy, 6.5 seems like a lot.
I agree with you that it seems like a lot. That said, I like the Tigers here, and the Missouri Tigers specifically. What Missouri's done such a great job of all year is taking care of business against teams that they should take care of business against. They've overperformed a couple times, but it's really just about playing that solid, aggressive defense. I think Princeton's going to be surprised by how athletic and how aggressive Missouri is. I don't see Princeton having the same success they had against Arizona. I do think Missouri still has a little bit of hunger in them. I think they're feeling a little disrespected about the kind of season they had to get a 7 seed. And I think they took some of that out on Utah State. I think there's something to prove for Missouri. I think that's a bad combination for a 15 seed to be playing a team that feels disrespected.
Yeah, call me crazy, but I thought the initial under over I saw on this was like in the 130s. It's now 148, which just seems incredibly high to me with Missouri's athleticism on the defensive end. So I'm gonna take the under here, a play on this game. Moving along, Auburn, Houston. Houston -5, 132. Obviously, this wouldn't be a 5-point game if the Sasser factor wasn't played into it. Again, this is a tough call for me. I could see Auburn winning this one. I am, though, because they don't shoot the ball well, and Houston has that suffocating defense, and Houston showed in the first game without Sasser, they are lacking some offensive potency. I'm going to take the under here.
I like Auburn in this one, and like you said, I think Auburn could win this game. It's in Birmingham; they've got the advantage there. Houston has been struggling to score with or without Sasser for a couple months now in AAC play. I know they play slow tempo, so some of that can be a little bit deceiving. But I really feel that Auburn is just going to have the juice in this one. There's just going to be that crowd getting behind them. Every little thing starts to go their way. The crowd can feel the upset coming. Houston might start to play a little bit tight. I think the rebounding for Houston could prove really important, but I like this matchup for Auburn. I really do. I think Auburn might win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you at all there. I think this is going to be a tight ball game. Just will Houston's experience in these types of games, in the tourney games play out here? I don't know. Then we move on to, which I think is a kind of a fun game, will be a fun game to watch. Penn State and Texas. Texas -5.5, 139. The way Penn State can shoot threes and the way Texas likes to get up and down, I like the over here. I would lean toward Texas here, but doggone, every time I go against Penn State, they come back to haunt me.
Yeah, I like Texas and the over in this one. I think what Penn State does really well, Texas also does really well. And Texas is just a bigger, more athletic version of Penn State in a lot of ways. So I like the over. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring, but I also think Texas is not only going to be able to keep up with Penn State, I think they're just going to overwhelm them eventually.
This next game, the odds makers just said, okay, we're gonna throw up the toughest possible line for you to digest. UCLA 7.5, the under over 126.5. I mean, Northwestern's last under over was 128, and they went over. But yeah, this is just, I have no idea on this game. I'm staying away from this one. I don't have any idea which way this could go. If I had to lean one way, I'd take UCLA, but I have no pick on this one.
I saw when the brackets were released, this one really stuck out for me. I think Northwestern likes to play in the muck. I think UCLA likes to play in the muck, but UCLA is used to dragging teams into that style. Northwestern's going to be happy to do it. I think this stylistically could be to Northwestern's advantage. Both teams are going to want to play that kind of grinded out game. And I think at the end of the day, the player who's going to have the most success is Bubui. So if Northwestern has the guy that's making the most plays on the court, I like Northwestern. I like the under because I do think this is just going to be a knock them out, drag them down sort of game. But I like Northwestern on this one.
I always stay away from those like 126 to 129 type things because I think it's just you get down to 120, I'm all over the over. Because that's 3 points a minute to me. 1-3 hits that, right? But yeah, it's a tough one. I would lean if I had to pick one thing. Yeah, I would probably go the under as well. And then finally, we've got Maryland and Alabama. Alabama is 9. The total's 143.5. What do you think?
I think this is one where, my gut says don't go over on Alabama, but I just think Alabama is playing so well the past week or so. Obviously, they were struggling for a little bit after, all the incidents and ramifications around the program, but they've really picked it up. I think this is really a test of do you believe in Alabama as they're currently constructed or not? And I think I believe that Alabama is going to come out like gangbusters, ready to go towards that Sweet 16. I think you're going to see a terrific performance from Alabama. I think it's going to be the sort of performance that people say, that might be your national champion. I think Alabama scores a lot, gets us to the over, and covers.
There's an injury factor. Have you heard an update? I haven't heard an update today.
Yeah, no new update other than still the groin issue seems to be kind of lingering there. That said, we did have the poor performance in round one, not scoring, but at the same time, I do believe in the Alabama team as a totality here. So I still like Alabama in this one.
Yeah, I texted Coach Lutz of Texas A&M Corpus Christi and said, "Hey, you held one of the best players in the country to no points. Way to go!" Talking about point spreads, I don't know if you noticed this, but that was 24-point spread. The game is almost over. I'm sure this will be on bad beats. The game is almost over. They look to be dribbling out the clock, Corpus Christi, and their guard just jacks up the three with 1 second left from about 30 feet and drains it to cover the point spread. And I happen to be in a sports bar that's connected to a sports book, and the place went nuts. It was one of those underseen things that happened in March Madness.
I can't remember what the game was, but there was another game this weekend where there was a foul called with 0.2 seconds left after no calls for about 3 seconds of kind of reaches in.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one swung the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You just those last seconds, I remember there was a regular season one, New Mexico and Utah State, I want to say. And it appeared that it was Utah State. They were going to run Boise State. Boise State was going to run the clock out. And a player, all four guys just stopped for New Mexico. So you're like, okay, I got the cover. Or I've got, the cover for New Mexico. And then all of a sudden, New Mexico guy just like swung his arm halfway at a player. The ref blows a whistle. Like he could have easily let that go. And of course, they go down and hit 2 free throws. It's just, I guess that's why they call it gambling, right? Okay, so let's just go down our top three for today. What do you got?
Yeah, I think Missouri, I just feel confident that they're ready to come out. Again, I think they've got something to prove, and I think they want to show not only are they a Sweet 16 team, I think they want to show that they're ready to compete at that level. So I like Missouri. You mentioned it earlier. Duke that just seems like it's too close for as good as Duke is playing, as poorly as Tennessee has played. I like Duke. And then I've got to go with Auburn. I just feel like Auburn has that advantage of being in Birmingham. The weight is off. They can play. Last year they were the ones in the 2 seed position with all of that pressure in the second round. This year, I feel like they get to turn the tables on Houston. Houston, in the back of their minds, they've got to know we've got the Shed injury now, the Sasser injury. Can we get to the regional? I just think there's a lot of things pointing towards Auburn having a successful evening.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, Duke. I like the Missouri game, but I like the under in that game. My third one is tough. I'm torn, but I'm going to go the over in the Penn State game, Penn State-Texas game, as my third number one for the day. Okay, let's move ahead to Sunday. Now, I got to tell you, like I've said, I've looked down these up and down these games. Nothing really jumped out at me the first 2 days. A little bit more yesterday. I liked, I thought the Marquette line was way too low. I thought the UConn line was too low. Those turned out all right. But didn't really have great feelings about Saturday, but boy, Sunday lines came out and I've got 3 or 4 that I just love. So here we go. Sunday, we got Pittsburgh, who's just been on fire here, taking on a Xavier team who struggled for, 36 minutes of that game the other day. Xavier, I guess it was yesterday. So many games, they all run together. Xavier -5, 152.5 for the total. What are your thoughts, Mr. Graham?
I think we're about to see another good defensive performance from Pitt, just like they had against Iowa State. I don't think they'll hold them anywhere near as poorly as Iowa State played offensively, but I do like the way Pitt's playing. You know, it seems like we always get one of these teams comes out of the first four and then just catches fire. Seems to be Pitt this year. I like Pitt going as the one that ends up covering and also keeping this to an under because I think Xavier's going to find it a little bit more difficult to score than they're anticipating.
I would totally agree with you on the under. I would disagree with you. I like Xavier here. I think they got that early game jitter out of the way. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and I think they're going to come out. I think Pittsburgh is, one of the very last teams in. Now getting into the echelon of games where, these are the kind of games they played in the ACC and didn't always come through. So I'm going to go with a slight play on Xavier, but a harder play on the under. Well, if we took the state out of this, this would be a blue blood matchup, would be Kansas, Kentucky, but it's Kansas State and Kentucky. The Wildcats are -2. Oh, another Wildcat. We got a Wildcat and a Tiger. This is awesome. So the Kentucky Wildcats are -2. It's 145.5. This is almost, to me, getting to the Duke line. Not quite, but I can't believe this line. I am all over Kansas State here. I know they haven't played well, but Kentucky, I think we're a little bit swayed by the last game, right? Kentucky played against the Providence game, and we were talking off air. We're not sure just how together Providence was. If you look at their last 4 games now, they've laid 4 eggs because of the Ed Cooley to Georgetown news. I got to think that affected that team. I don't think that performance was, indicative of if Providence hadn't had, if they were playing in the middle of the season. It's tough to beat a team when one guy gets 25 rebounds. I'll grant you that. But I like Kansas State here.
Yeah, I think this is one where when the bracket came out, I posted on Twitter, I think Kentucky can go deep with their draw. I think Kentucky has the chance to go to a Final Four. I really believe that. At the same time, I don't like this matchup for Kentucky. I think they're drawing a team that is same thing as Missouri, feeling disrespected. Kansas State's the 3 seed, and I don't think they're getting any sort of respect. You're going up against a team that has 2 guards that can really score the basketball in Kansas State reliably, get to the foul line, make free throws. I just think Kansas State is going to be disrespected in this one. They are in many ways opposite of what Kentucky does. Kentucky can sometimes struggle to do the little things right, and Kansas State never does the little things wrong. I think this is the sort of game where that becomes a big deal. So I really like Kansas State in this one. I do like the under.
Okay. Yeah, I agree too. And the other thing last night was, Kansas State was playing a pesky Montana State team. There were about 4 or 5 times in that game where a team that wasn't mentally tough could have let Montana State back in that game, and they did not. I'm not sure Kentucky would have reacted the same way. So I love Kansas State.
Good point.
Moving on, Marquette -3, 141 against Michigan State. Speaking of disrespect, the nation is disrespecting this team. Marquette is way the better team here. It's not even close. Now, Kolek's hand, does that bother him? I don't know. He came out after the injury and hit a 3 right away, so I don't think so. I love Marquette in this game.
I like Marquette in the over because I think Marquette's about to run away with it.
All right, so we got 2 strong plays we agree with here. St. Mary's, UConn 3.5. The total 129. There's that 129 number again. It's the St. Mary's team that obviously, plays low scoring games. It's a UConn team that likes high scoring games. So I'm a little flip of the coin there. But again, this is one of my stronger plays. I love UConn. I love the way UConn's playing right now. I just think they're going to overwhelm St. Mary's.
Yeah, I think this is too close to where I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be really kind of start to finish. I don't want to say a dominant performance. That's not what I'm expecting, but I think it's just going to be a comfortable UConn win. I don't really expect St. Mary's to push them too hard.
Wow, there's 3 in a row. 3 strong plays right there, people. Put those in a parlay. Kansas State, Marquette, and UConn. Then we move on. Baylor is a 1.5-point favorite tomorrow, 6 o'clock tip against Creighton. The under-over 145. This under-over has come down. Point spread's gone back and forth between 1.5. As a guy who covers Creighton, I need more points to jump on the Creighton side here. I would. I could see Creighton winning this game very easily. Breaking down with the coaches yesterday, Baylor, they just played a team with 2 terrific guards, and obviously he gave up 32 points, but their goal was, hey, we aren't going to let them shoot threes. If they want to drive to the hole and get a tough 2, that's what we'll give them. Baylor, similar, guards that can shoot the 3, they don't take it to the hole as much. They can, but the problem is defensively, they're much larger and bigger guards. I mean, muscular, 6'4" guys. So that's a problem on the other end of the floor. Creighton's probably not going to get those interior passes into Kalkbrenner as easily either. They're not going to front Kalkbrenner and not have anybody on the backside, which is just like, how do you do that? I just don't know which way to go on this one. And I could see the under over either way too. This is a tough call for me.
Yeah, I think it's a coin flip. Really, genuinely a coin flip. I have no play here. I think it's whoever ends up with the ball last, maybe the team that wins it. Really don't have strong feelings other than whoever wins this game is likely headed to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, what a great Baylor's been there tons of times. What a great opportunity for Creighton, right? They could get to their first Elite Eight. They've got a great path. And I think you said that right off the get-go when Arizona lost. I didn't even think about it. You said, "Wow, this could really open it up for Creighton to get to the Elite Eight, which would be an awesome milestone in their program." And of course, Creighton fans are all the memories of 2014 where they got just absolutely destroyed when Steve Kerr, the announcer, made the famous line, "This is the varsity versus the JV," which was stingingly true. This is an interesting game. This line kind of came out obviously very late because these teams played. FAU played late. What a great game that was, by the way. And tip of our cap to our other member, Rocco, for I'm sure he's very happy today, celebrating that FAU has made it on. FDU taking on FAU. The Owls 12.5, 149.5. What do you think here?
What has Florida Atlantic done all year long? Absolutely pummeled teams that they should beat. This will not be an intimidating situation for FAU. I don't think they're going to be feeling the pressure. They've been feeling the pressure all year long, knowing that any of these losses in Conference USA could potentially affect their at-large status. I think FAU is going to be the team that comes out and just plays really well, plays the sort of style of basketball that you'd expect a favorite to play. This has really nothing to do with FDU. I think this is about FAU having their moment in the sun.
I don't have a strong play here. I probably would lean FAU, although I'll say this. If the game stays at all close, that whole arena is going to be cheering for FDU, and that can make a factor. I think we've kind of seen that a little bit. I like your point, though. That was, the coach kind of took some crap for saying what he said in the locker room, but you know what? He was right. Like that was the perfect team for them to play. A team that's been sliding for the last 3 weeks. A team that can handle pressure. A team whose guards can hit threes consistently. I mean, that was just played into their hands perfect. I mean, it was, people are saying it's the all-time greatest upset. I get that, because had they not had a team in their conference that wasn't eligible, they wouldn't have been in the NCAA tournament. But that matchup was really sweet for them.
Yeah, I think comparing the two, you had a UVA team that happened to have a major injury with DeAndre Hunter, and probably that game doesn't go that way otherwise. But UMBC was a lot better basketball team than FDU. I just think, to me, the real key here is Purdue was a very, very weak 1 seed. And I don't think much of anybody thought they were going to have a successful tournament. Yes, they went out sooner than people thought, but the warning signs were there for a long time that a short tournament run was likely on the horizon.
I mean, it's always hindsight 2020, right? But from a bracketology standpoint, when we look back on this, I kind of have a feeling like, wow, I didn't want to take that recency bias, but now that I look back, I'm like, wow, UCLA clearly should have been the number 1, or Texas, either one.
Well, I personally, I think the committee was going to do that had UCLA just beaten Arizona. That's all they had to do was beat Arizona.
Yeah. And now you look at, I hate to jump back to that game, and I know you watch it. It's just like the most disappointing. Like, well, the huge thing about that was many people, including myself, Arizona going all the way in their bracket. And I've seen them about 2 or 3 or 4 games, play that way. And conversely, I saw them play when they were really focused against Creighton. Creighton couldn't have played any better and still got beat, right? And they looked like they could care less if they won or lost that game. That's just how they played. It was just amazing to me.
It was Arizona's MO all season. When they play their up games, they come to play. When they play their down games, they often go down and don't come back. So they had a really weird profile, and I think it kind of fit what happened in the tournament to Arizona. You just play with your food a little bit too long. Sometimes it comes back to bite you.
Yeah, wow, that was crazy. All right, what should be a great game. Miami didn't play very well. Indiana, I think, played pretty well. You got Indiana -1.5. The total's 145.5. I'm really on this Indiana team. I have them going a long way, and I like them. It's only 1.5. So if Miami, if they can shut down Wong like Drake did, and Drake doesn't have the athletes they do to shut him down, I think Miami's in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I think Miami's underrated compared to how good they are. I think they've been underrated really all year long. I do think they're a talented team. That said, you're really looking at who do you think is going to win the game, and it's pretty much that simple. And I just think Indiana's going to win the game. So I believe Indiana's the call here.
Is that a strong play for you, or medium or low?
I would say medium for me because I do think Miami has you could argue Miami is the more overall talented team, but I do think they have some question marks here against an Indiana team who really has you mentioned earlier they've got a crowd advantage that should be coming into play with the way that their crowd traveled. So I do like Indiana here as the team.
And if Jackson Davis plays like he did last night, they're tough to beat. They really are. Last game on the docket for tomorrow is TCU. Kind of an interesting, interesting game to put last. It doesn't have a lot of huge national appeal. I think, to me, I would put that. Well, I guess Indiana and Miami's kind of in the same time slot. But TCU, Gonzaga 4.5, 157. I have so many other strong plays on the Sunday card that this is going to fall down the list, but I'm pretty strong on Gonzaga here. TCU really was helped out a lot by Arizona State last night. Great comeback, okay, and great shot at the end, but I still like Gonzaga here.
Yeah, I think this is very good timing for Gonzaga when this game's happening. Eddie Lampkin is just such a mammoth human being. He's a big guy, sturdy, plays so well at times, but he's not there for Gonzaga. And I think the real advantage is Drew Timme isn't going to get worn out. I think that's the thing that will ultimately push Gonzaga here is had he been, banging around with Eddie Lampkin on offense and defense, I think Drew Timme could potentially get worn down and Gonzaga could be in some real trouble because I do like TCU from a guard perspective more than I like Gonzaga, but I think they just drew a good time to play TCU with no Eddie Lampkin. So I feel pretty good about Gonzaga here, just based on Drew Timme really having a big advantage.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They probably haven't played a guard like Miles in a long, long time, to face him. And that obviously is going to be a issue. But I think like you said, without Lampkin, they're a little easier to game plan against. You're like, okay, look, we're probably going to come with some doubles on Miles. We're going to get the ball out of his hands. We're going to do this. You can kind of game plan against one guy. It's tough to do it against two or three. So I agree with you. Okay, so let's go to our big picks for Sunday. And I just want to say on my end of it, these are bigger picks than Saturday's games for me. First, number one overall, go get money out of the bank, mortgage your house, put it all on Marquette. I love Marquette here, only the -3. Number two, I'm right there with UConn, -3.5. And then there's so many great plays here, but I'm going to go Kansas State +2, maybe a little lesser than the other two. But still, I've got some outside plays too, but those are my top three. But there's several other good plays here on the Sunday card.
Yeah, I think for me, I won't be telling anybody to mortgage their house. I'm doing this for fun, throwing that out there. But I do believe Marquette feel strongest of all about that game. Then I feel Gonzaga is a great pick here. For the reasons mentioned, and UConn. I think the Big East teams that are in play on Sunday, really strong looks for me for Marquette and UConn. I just feel like they're not getting quite enough respect compared to how well these teams are playing right now. So I think Marquette, UConn, Gonzaga are the three that really stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, UConn can match up with anybody. That's the thing, and they have something that the other teams don't. They've got a great depth at guard coming off bench, and then Klingon is God. He'd be probably an all-conference center in a lot of leagues, but he's a backup to Sanogo, as a freshman, and they've got depth. And they're really good.
The only thing that I think UConn maybe hasn't quite reached the potential that I think they could is I think they should have experimented more with using two big men at the same time because they are so good. I know it's not really something that's become popular in college basketball. It's become very out of style. I get that. But it is out of style. So it could really cause some teams some problems trying to match up that way.
Yeah.
I think they maybe don't have their best five on the floor a lot of the time.
Yeah, and the fact that Sanogo's expanded his game and has hit a lot of threes this year, geez, that's a scary, scary front line. I mean, you're going to dominate the boards. You're going to, you throw in Caravan at the forward, who's a tremendous rebounder and scorer too. Yeah, crazy. All right. The only down for I was just going to mention one more thing. Sorry to say this, but Danny Hurley can get out coached sometimes. So you got to kind of play that in there, I think that's a solid set. We gave you Marquette, UConn, Kansas State, Gonzaga as our four top plays for Sunday. For Saturday, Missouri, Duke, Auburn, and probably under in the Missouri game as our top four plays on Saturday. So there you go. Go have fun. Enjoy the games. Thanks, Graham. We'll try and do this again next week when we set up the Sweet 16, which are even tougher to handicap. But got two good minds. We'll maybe add another one in here for those games and see what we got. We're sponsored by Godfather's Pizza Pie Pile High. Go to godfathers.com. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.